my son has explosive disorder as well, and part of our challenge was that when he got to be 14, he got so explosive that we became concerned about his safety as well as our family's safety, and we decided, unfortunately at that point we were in Georgia, to put him in a hospital, and he ended up there for 2 years and 3 weeks. And you know, he was 4 hours away from us. We had to drive and stay at a Ronald McDonald House, which you should put money in the Ronald McDonald House donation thing. But it gave us an opportunity to really find out who he was. Asperger's was so new at that point. We didn't really know a lot about it. And we were able to connect with Emory's Autism Resource Center and developed this triangle of services, which gave us a chance to see what he could do. All we had ever looked at is what he couldn't do. And we had always told him, no, you can't do that. We needed to come up with ways that we could say, yes, you can do so and so. So with us being educated and understanding, we were then able to educate and help him understand. And while we still have that challenge at times, he actually becomes upset that he's upset. And that he's upset our routine or upset our situation. He doesn't like the TV. So he doesn't like to come into the kitchen if the TV is on. Because my husband's watching a TV program. So a lot of times if we want him to come into the kitchen to help do something, we have to turn the TV off. He gets real upset about that because he doesn't want to disrupt what we're doing. But yet that's something that we've had to accept and say, okay, this is a part of who he is. But we did discover that if it was a National Geographic program, then we're okay. So, you can't be afraid to say to the child, this is what your challenge is, but let's take this challenge and turn it into something very positive. When he was entering 5th grade, I remember distinctly that the school said, what's the most important thing that you want for your child? And I told them that I wanted him to have a good self-esteem. I didn't want him to have straight A's. I didn't want him to have, all this. He had to have good self-esteem, because if he didn't have good self-esteem, he couldn't accomplish the things that go along with that. The learning wasn't going to happen if he didn't have that. And Corbin is certainly demonstrating that today in how you're exhibiting your good self-esteem. You have a good feeling about who you are. And that shows in the way that you interact with other people. And so that's what we, right, exactly.
Many, many years of a lot of head banging on the walls, both physically and metaphorically.
Yeah.
And looking at myself, and more importantly, having my mother accept my disability first.
Yeah.
She had to accept my disability and go, okay, so my kid's autistic. And not try to rationalize it.
Right.
Not try to dismiss it. Not try to say to me in the car, you're autistic, not stupid. And more importantly, allow me to learn and acknowledge my disability as for what it is. Not this super special magical gift, and not like an epic tragedy either. But look at it plainly as it is. And that helped a lot, because then I learned to not to figure out what my strengths are and my weaknesses, but more importantly, to accept responsibility for my actions about that.
Well, I think when you talk about self-esteem, that's the whole vision of employment first. When our current adult services director came to Franklin County, our first day was strategic planning. And Teresa Cobalt is very good at it. Unfortunately, she's going back to the state, but she'll help us at the state because she'll be able to write some good policies and procedures for us. But we had to talk about our day. Everyone in that room said work. And I have to work, but work gives me a sense. It does something for my self-esteem. We may have to start with some individuals in volunteerism. When I retire, I'll volunteer somewhere. I want to have self-esteem from that. So that's just a building block. So, you know, just that confidence with that can make differences elsewhere. And that's where it's critical to find out what they like, what they're good at, where can we find opportunities. And that customization, that's where our field's really coming from. And, you know, when I was talking with those employers that came to federal contractors, and I was talking to the CAD CAM folks, and they're like, I don't think you can help us. It's like, but how much paper do you push in a day? Oh, a lot. Are you backlogged on projects? Oh yeah, because all of our CAD CAM designers have to process paper. We could come in, we could just do a job card for an individual that could handle all that paperwork, and your folks can just rock and roll on the CAD CAM. So that, us as a field, that's what we've got to learn, to go into employers and customize work and really identify there's an opportunity, there's a value added. That's what we talk about. It's got to be a value added to the employer. And we can help your bottom line. We can make you more profitable. And the employer starts saying, show me how. But that's changed in our field, and the staff that we have in our field, and how they have to really understand the employer needs. We've been doing job placement for 32 years in Franklin County. I will say at a time it was. We went out and said, don't you want to help the community, and don't you want to hire someone with disability? We don't do that now. We have someone that can benefit your bottom line, and here's their skills, and we'd love to have the opportunity for you to interview them. That's all we ask.
Right. And thinking that someone may be employable and have learned as much as they could possibly learn when they turn 18, 19, 20, or 21 and graduate from high school is really putting a limit on their potential. We are all lifelong learners, whether you have autism or a different type of developmental disability. And so at Ohio State, we have a post-secondary program that is designed for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And we provide extra supports to help people keep learning in areas of interest. And while they're taking a class with typical college students at OSU, they're working a 15 to 20-hour internship to continue to develop those employability skills and those occupational skills to figure out what it is they really want to spend 20, 30, 40 hours a week getting paid to do. And we're seeing that self-esteem rise. We're expecting them to go to class and be an active participant in that class and take notes. And there's lots of avenues to continue on that path to employment. And so there's some information in your packets about the TOPS program.
I think that kind of touches on one last question that we had previously, was basically just kind of seeing how us as helping hands with everything that we are as a school and a therapy center with teachers, occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy, music therapy, whatever therapy, I don't know.
All the therapies, all of them.
You know, like all the different areas that we can try to help support our parents. You know, with just finding different areas of interest and strengths for the student, for also, you know, helping them with self-advocacy for them and making sure that they are in touch with their service coordinators and, you know, just the different programs that we have available in the state and in the different counties that they live in. So we will go ahead and kind of wrap things up. Are there any specific questions that anybody has? Just from anything that we just discussed?
Yeah, okay, so I realized I forgot to introduce myself at the beginning. But I'm Valerie Robinson, and I'm one of the music therapists. So I know Stephanie because she's a fellow music therapist, and so I know this about her. Stephanie, could you just, since there's a lot of therapists here, could you just give a little bit of a brief overview of your thesis that you're working on? Because I think that really applies to.
It's on Ohio Link.
There you go.
I did a phenomenological study with 3 young adults who are receiving music therapy while going through this transition process to see how music therapy, what kind of role it played, and did it help improve their quality of life. And because it was phenomenological, it was all about interviews and observations. There weren't really statistics that you could put with it. However, some interesting things came out of my findings in that transition was really not that big of a topic for these 3 individuals and their families. One of the individuals was already out of school and being served by a day habilitation program. And when I say transition, I'm talking about that little tiny window of, say, 14 to 22. However, what did come about that was really interesting was that music therapy had actually helped with the transitions of life. 2 of these individuals had received music therapy for many, many years and had gone through various changes, from a toddler to a school-age child to, middle school and so on and so forth. And the music therapy services were not being served in the school environment. They were in an outside service, so that probably had some things to do with it. But quality of life was just phenomenal as a result of not only for the individual themselves. One young man could barely carry on a conversation. But he could play the piano, the drums, and was currently learning the baritone. And his dad should probably win the Parent of the Year award because his dad had gone to school with him for a solid year so that this child could be in band, because the school and their environment would not allow this child to have an aid. So that's another story. But anyway, here was another young man whose main interest was video games, but yet when he got in the music therapy room, he became a musician, a composer, and music it was amazing. It just kind of oozed out of this young man. A young lady who was frightened to be in different places, but yet the music therapy had taught her some relaxation techniques, so that when she went to Home Depot, which she thinks smells terrible, I'm not really sure what smells at Home Depot other than, I don't know, she had some things that she could use in order to help herself in that particular environment as a result of music therapy. So I feel very strongly that if you're involved in your student's life as a teacher or a therapist, that you are, in fact, part of that team that is the transition team. Maybe you can't go to every single meeting, but yet you should be a part of the planning and seeing how you can be involved in helping that child become a functional adult in society. What does that involve? Communication is a big thing. I've got a client in another area in the state who's 20 years old and doesn't have any functional speech at all. Doesn't know sign language, doesn't use a device, doesn't talk, hums. And that's it.
Phone number?
Right. So, what's going to happen with this kid, I don't know, because I'm currently not working with him. That's part of the problem, is that does something and then mom stops for a while and then he'll do something again and then, but, you know, I think it takes a village, it really does.
Right. I just want to give a shout out to occupational therapists. In our TOPS program, it's been our OTs who have provided assistive technology for our young adults. They get in there and do a worksite analysis. They help us doing discovery and an assessment of an individual's strengths and abilities and help us with that job matching process. And it has made all the difference in the world to gauge a person's motivation to want to go to work. I mean, if it's a good job match, they'll much more likely to want to go to work and be able to make a contribution. But I can't imagine Corbin washing dishes. You know? I mean, what a waste of talent to have a person like Corbin in a job that is so repetitive where he can't use his insights to assist others.
If it was a stepping stone job, say a kid is interested in cooking, but he hates washing dishes. It's not very good.
Yeah.
But think about it as a stepping stone position.
Sure, and yeah, exactly, and I'm not saying don't try those jobs.
Right, yeah,
But
I'm just
try
saying.
them as chores and find out
Yes.
what people's interests and preferences are, and that's what this discovery system is all about.
And I will say that when we took my son to one particular place to try a job, and the employer didn't understand who he was and they were expecting him to wash dishes for 4 hours straight. I don't think I could wash dishes for 4 hours straight. So, you know, that's, a lot of it is education, and in our particular incident, even disclosure, didn't
boy.
help the situation,
No.
so.
Sometimes it completely backfires in some cases. Thank you, Cedar Point. Thank you, Cedar Point, for completely backfiring everything. Another story for another day.
I'm gonna leave this with Katie for being such a great moderator.
Yes.
This is one of the Employment First new products that's developed for job seekers. There's a male version and a female version, and it just explains the path to employment. So I'll give this to Katie.
And actually, if you go to the website, because you could order some for everyone. In fact, I told one of my staff to order, because I was at a conference last week and they said, order 200-300 and pass them out. But it's really important because that path is how the IFC is going to have to be written, or the IP. Person has no interest, no knowledge. So you're going to write goals to broaden their awareness of the benefits of working and give them those opportunities to go out and identify things. You know, so that it's a 4-step path. It could be someone that's in a workshop. We have to get them out in the community, seeing the opportunities to do. We could have them in an enclave. That an enclave is in the community, but they're paid by us. They are making them wage, but it's not considered competitive because they're not on an employer's payroll. The ultimate is being on an employer's payroll. So we have to, Franklin County, we worked hard with service coordination. They have to have that goal, and it came in April 24th, I think. It's now, it has to be part of the ISP. We've got a year to get that language in because of everyone's span dates. But they're going to have to write that, and then us as the adult services provider are going to have to identify a goal that ties to that path and what we're going to do with working with each individual. So that's a great visual, and it's a road, it's a path.
It's your last chance.
I have a question, I don't want to like drag this one out. For you, Corbin, I know like part of a job is actually doing the skill. Like a whole other part is the social navigation, all of that. What like did you learn that was helpful? Didn't you learn that you wish you had?
Oh boy, I will not drag this out, but learning the proper social skills to interacting with coworkers is something that people completely miss, especially with working with autistics. It's the most obvious thing we do without even thinking about it as when neurotypicals do without thinking about it. But for autistics, it's like, how do I speak Latin? It is really, really difficult and daunting, and many educational programs and transitional programs completely miss it sometimes. I mean, my BVR counselor didn't go, okay, so this is how you have a water cooler conversation with your employer, with your coworkers. This is how to have a back and forth conversation in the lunchroom. Nobody talks about that. Nobody teaches an autistic kid about it because we don't think about it. We just do it. The thing I've learned was just regular small talk, which is a very difficult skill to learn. The way I interacted and learned to make friends with many of Helping Hands employees and my coworkers was coming into the room and just saying, hi, what's up, what's new? And doing that on a regular basis. And then once they learn interests, oh, you're really into that. I'm planting a garden right now. And then build that interest with, oh yeah, I just got this harvest. Would you like some veggies? To, hey, do you want to have drinks sometime? And build with that. I had no idea how to have a conversation with anybody. I just know how to do my job. You go into the classroom, you go in the lunchroom, you clean, you come out, that's it. I did not know. And what's really sad and scary was I did not feel like an equal. Many autistics do not feel like they're equals in those environments. They don't. They're hired in by an agency, or in my case, I fought my way in. I self-advocated my way in. I had no idea, because you see your disability, and you've been raised, from the moment you get the disability label, the moment you get the disability label, you'll always be inferior. How do you unlearn that? How do you learn all of that? It's what was really difficult, but I treasure my friendships so much from the people I've met in Helping Hands and the people I'm working and getting to know through Columbus City Schools. You know, I'm glad to be on people's Facebook feeds. I'm glad to have people take me out to lunch. I'm glad to have happy hour with folks. To me, those are so more vital than just, you know, it's self-esteem. It's so self-esteem. And more importantly, you no longer feel that you're just the disabled coworker anymore. You're the guy that goes and has beers at Rivari Room and talk about stuff. You feel like an equal. You feel officially part of the community.
And for my son, he goes to work. He has a lot of interactions. In fact, there are parents that bring their children through his line. He's a bagger at Kroger because he'll imitate the count. One carton of eggs. And so that really, you know, the kids really enjoy that.
My
He gets
godson
home,
nuts.
he gets home, his social quota is met.
Yeah.
He's done.
Yeah.
Work was fine, I'll see you later, I'm going to my room.
Yeah.
Just depends.
I'll be in my bunk. Bye.
What we teach our students, some of our students in the TOPS program, is all they have to say is, what about that game? And that starts a conversation.
I'll take that. I'll do that. What about that Blue Jackets game?
But, you know, you listen to Corbin and he was uncomfortable, and that's what we're really trying to do with our adult services. We need to be in the community. We need to have those interactions. They're not always going to be positive. And probably 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the person in the community and not the individual we serve. But the more they're inclusive, understand the community, the more successful they're going to be.
Yes, yes. All of the
So
yes.
get out of this school.
No, I think that you're hitting on a salient point. I didn't mean to like try and take the panel, but something that I feel really passionate about is that how many meetings and how many programs do they have to be to make Corbin enough for us? You know, ultimately, like, how much does he have to go through, and how many meetings have to be about him before
the community is ready to accept him as
How long do I
equal.
have to pass as a neurotypical for me to be considered a valuable member in the community?
And how many IEP goals do my kids have to meet, and how many social skills groups do they have to have before those guys over there are ready for him to be a friend, when really the special education that really needs to happen is for those guys.
Yep, you're
Yeah.
right.
And like, I value Corbin's friendship a lot, and I don't mean to sound like I am losing you, and I'm not.
You've done that already at the lab training.
Well, that's a different story.
It's okay.
We all learn from each other, and I've learned a lot about you. I've learned a lot from Corbin, and that has taught me that my personal children, like my children, like need to know how to be friends with a lot of different people.
And you know, I really see value though in the special education classroom. Sometimes in those contained classrooms, that's where it has to start. Because there's got to be some security for the children. And when we took a stack of paperwork this big to the kindergarten school, and they wanted to put my son in a regular kindergarten classroom, we knew that was not going to be a successful experience. He ended up getting suspended because he threw milk across the room. And you're trying to explain to a kindergartner why he can't go to school. Again, this is a long time ago. A lot of changes have gone about. But, you know, he became successful in a contained classroom and then moved out. And that's what it took for him. That's not true for everyone. So I love inclusion, and I think mainstreaming is important, but sometimes that contained environment is also helpful because it gives them some security and something that they can start with and then move out. But yes, the public also needs to be accepting.
Right.
That's what we're missing. And we're missing that with mental health and a lot of other things. So,
Yeah, don't get me started with NAMI.
yeah.
Well, thank you all for coming.
Corbin,
Yes.
I don't have your phone number. Would you mind?
Sure, yeah.